Слава Ісусу Христу!
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Slava Navika.
It's okay. I could read your lips as you responded.
How are you doing?
Busy, but doing great. Thanks be to God. Running. One thing to the next. How about yourself?
Good. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to do this thing. Okay, I'll start letting people in. So you're set for kind of doing the response to Christine's Tone 2 workshop lesson thing? Yeah? Melita?
Sorry, say that again. My audio. Yes, sorry. It got distorted. Couldn't
Yeah.
hear.
So you're set for kind of doing the response to Christine's like general Tone 2 intro thing. Right?
Yeah.
Good. Then so Ilya is going to do the intro to Tone 2 again. Ask Damyan to sing Heavenly King at the beginning for diversification of
course.
talents and resources. And then for the topic of this week, it's how to intone the verse. So Ilya will start it off and then we can all kind of jump in. I think you have some things to say about that also on like relative, like the musical side with solfege or something, perhaps?
For the verses,
Yeah.
there isn't really much. I mean, it's just starts. I mean, for Tone 2, it's fairly simple. So
No,
sure,
I mean in general, because we're talking about intoning the verses, like the idea
Right.
in general.
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
what would you like me to
And just
tell
think
them?
if you have anything.
In general.
Yeah, because next week will be the one where it's how to find the right note to start,
Right.
like how to find do and things like that. So
Relative to the priest, right? I
Stuff
mean,
like
but
that.
there are restarts. I mean, once you get to the propers, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Basically, make sure you have enough room for everybody to fit. If your leaders don't start too low, because you'll
exactly, yeah, stuff like that. Okay, good. So I'll start letting people in. Let me just wait. I have to share my screen, I think. Mhm.
How do I get in?
You're here, Father Roman.
Oh, I am in?
Yeah, your video is not on, I don't think.
Okay, thank. I'll start video.
There we go. Now we see you.
Daniel, would you consider in the future reading something from Sheptytsky's letter about cantering at the beginning?
That's right. You suggested that. I didn't prepare anything for today, but definitely next week I'll remember to do that.
A nice start.
Yeah, good idea.
Deacon Daniel.
Hello, yes, Michael.
I wanted to thank Father Roman for his Pre-Sanctified book. I got it in the mail on Saturday. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Like it almost took 2 weeks, I think. So Pony Express will be faster. Oh, it's time? Somebody's indicating that it's time, Daniel.
Man, I gotta get a new battery in my watch. Yeah, you're right. It's what time do you have?
I've got 2 after 8.
Man, I really
The
started
gentleman down
desperately.
below. Alex, what time do you have?
All right. I guess let's start. We're just waiting for
6:02 p.m. in Edmonton, Alberta, Western Canada. Thank you, дякую.
Oh, so we still have 2 more hours until 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
My time, yes. My and Damian's time, yes, correct.
Okay. Good. Let's just wait 1 second to make sure let everybody in.
Hey, Roman.
Paulette, hi, Paulette.
How are you?
I'm not going to ask you what the weather is like in Miami. I don't want to do that. I don't want
Look,
to.
I'm wearing shorts.
Stop it.
All right, to avoid any kind of conflict, and with this conversation, let's start then. Everybody's here more or less. I'll ask, welcome to session 3 of Name That Tone. So let's begin with a prayer. Damian Zakordansky will sing prayer to the Holy Spirit. Damian, you can unmute yourself to sing.
Okay. Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly King, Advocate, Spirit of a truth, who are everywhere present and fill all things, treasury of blessings, bestower of a life, come and dwell within us. Cleanse us of all that defiles us, and all good ones save our souls.
Can you stop that? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together. We ask you to teach us to pray along with the psalmist. We'll give thanks unto the Lord and call upon his name. Declare among the nations his works. Sing unto him and chant unto him. Tell forth all his wonders. Glory in his holy name. Let the heart of them be glad that seek the Lord. Seek ye the Lord and be strengthened. Seek ye his face at all times. Remember his wonders which he wrought, his marvels and the judgments of his mouth. Ye that are the seed of Abraham his servants, ye sons of Jacob his chosen. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit,
Amen.
now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you very much, Damian and Father Joseph. welcome again to the third session of Name That Tone. So third session meaning tone 2, okay, whatever the logic is there. And just in case, obviously, if you're here, you got the Zoom link, and it's the same link every week for all the resources and recordings of previous sessions. It's the website ugccmusic.com/NTT, Name That Tone. And just to recap our schedule, this is March 2nd, so tone 2. Next week, tone 3. We'll have a break to accommodate first week of Lent on the Julian calendar. Then we'll have a break for Holy Week and Bright Week on the new calendar, and the schedule continues. So just a reminder, it's the same Zoom link every week. So if you need it again, just write to the email hello@ugccmusic.com. And if you have other needs for music resources, visit our website, ugccmusic.com/music-resources. So without taking up too much time on the practicalities, let's get right to it with the tone of the week. This week, tone 2, and I'll ask reader Ilya to introduce the tone of the week, tone 2.
Okay. I just wanted to say before I start, if there's any questions about anything that I'm talking about, you can feel free to ask in the chat thing. You can chat direct, maybe ask me directly, like privately, so it doesn't clog up the general chat. Okay. So tone 2. So the second tone is the tone of transition. So we're going to look at this concept of transition. It reflects a progressive state from worse to better. For example, from darkness of night to the light of dawn, from the everyday to the pre-festive and festive, from temporal earthly life to life eternal, from childhood to maturity, that kind of idea. This tone calls to mind those moments of the transitional state when the first has not yet completely passed and the second has not yet completely arrived. The main ideas of the second tone are reflected in the rather short dogmaticon of the second tone. On a global, or more precisely a universal scale, we see the transition from the worst to the best in the transition from the Old Testament, the state of spiritual infancy and darkness, to the New Testament, which is expressed in the first words of the dogmaticon. O Virgin, the shadow of the law passed away with the realization of grace. So, O Virgin, the shadow of the law passed away. So we can see this, the idea of transition passing from the old law to the new, from the Old Testament into the New Testament. This line of the dogmat directly connects the idea of passing or transition from the old law with the Mother of God, to whom this hymn is addressed. Of all the Old Testament prototypes relating to the Theotokos, the Mother of God, the hymnographer uses the imagery of the burning bush, which typify the most central moment in the life of the Mother of God. That's the virginal birth giving, which is in the history of mankind, it became a transitional factor from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and at the same time, from ordinary virginity to ever virginal motherhood of the Most Holy Virgin. I can mention that there is a melodic connection between the dogmat and other melodies that are found in the Irmologion, such usually these melodies are connected to the Stepeni or the Irmose, but we can find similarities in the melody of the tone 2 dogmat in other parts of the Irmologion. The Sunday tropar of the second tone, when you went down to death, O life immortal, you struck Hades dead with the blazing light of your divinity. As if supplementing and expanding the main idea of transition that we have seen in the dogmat, gives us two more types or figures of the transitional state. The transition from the temporal life to eternal life, and the transition from the ordinary to the pre-festive and festive. There's an upward motion in this tropar. When you went down to death, O life immortal, you world. You struck Hades with a blazing light of it. When you raised the dead from the netherworld, all the powers of heaven cried out, O giver of life, Christ our God, glory to you, right? So there's this movement upwards. We must always keep in mind that this is the first, this Trupad is first and foremost one of the Trupadia of Great and Holy Saturday, the day of transition from dark to light, from sadness to joy, and from death to life, where it's the day in between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So it's the transition day from death into life almost, right? We should make note here that our baptismal hymn, all you who have been baptized into Christ, you who have put on Christ. I don't know if you've ever realized this, but that's actually tone 2 Bulgarian, just like the noble Joseph. The noble Joseph took your body down from the cross. So that most pivotal moment in our life, the transition from life to death and death to life, that march from the darkness of the narthex into the light of the nave of the church right after our baptism is accompanied by the sound of tone 2. And not only any tone 2, but the same tone 2 that should instantly transport us spiritually and emotionally to Great and Holy Saturday, to Christ's own death and resurrection. As you know, the Trupad, when you went down to death, the Trupad, the noble Joseph, and the tone 2 Podoben Yechta od dreva, or went from the tree. Yechta od dreva Rimatiski Yosef. These texts belong to the texts of Great and Holy Saturday. We can see that the second tone it's the primary tone of Great and Holy Saturday. The Aposticha, as already mentioned, is the Podoben Yechta od dreva. That's already the Aposticha of Holy Saturday, sung on Good Friday when the shout is brought out. It should also call to mind the stichira of the final kiss that we sing at funerals. It's the same melody. Come, brethren, let us give a final kiss to him who has fallen asleep, and let us give thanks to God. So we can see this musical connection. Again, music is it's an art form that can it works on our emotions, and it can, these things aren't by accident. These texts and these things are meant to remind us of other things at different times of the year. So at funerals, we should, again, be reminded of Holy Saturday. On Holy Saturday, we should be reminded of funerals. At Matins of Holy Saturday, the stichira at the praisers are sung in tone 2. The texts of the stichira, I won't go into them, but you can look for yourself. They beautifully illustrate the characteristic features and themes of Great and Holy Saturday. The stichira are sung just before the Great Doxology, which leads into a procession with the Plashenetsia. There's supposed to be a procession at that point, which itself symbolizes Christ's descent into Hades. Going, 3 times around the church is Christ's descent into Hades. This is the first moment of transition into Pascha. Soon after this, the homily, there's this homily of Saint Epiphany of Cyprus for Holy Saturday, which is read shortly after the procession. And it begins with the words, "Something strange is happening." Christ descends into the darkness of Hades to find Adam, and Adam, seeing Christ in the darkness of Hades, struck his breast in terror and cried out to everyone, "My Lord be with you all." And Christ answered him, "And with your spirit." And he took him by the hand and raised him up, saying, "Awake, O sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Christ will give you light." That's just the beginning of this homily, which is, it's an amazing homily to hear in the darkness of that Great and Holy Saturday night. Great and Holy Saturday isn't the only, it's not only the day of the burial of the Savior. We also honor it as the eve and forefeast of Holy Pascha. We can say that Great and Holy Saturday, it's the first, if Pascha is the first and foremost of all feasts, then Holy Saturday is the first and foremost of all earthly forefeasts. We see echoes of the Holy Week in the melodies and texts of the forefeasts and eve of Christmas and Theophany. On the eve of the Nativity of Christ and Theophany, "O Lord, I have cried to you," is sung in tone 2. The stichira, in the stichira of the pre-festive in the stichira, the pre-festive aspect of the second tone is given with particular clarity. The transition taking place is not necessarily gentle or calm. The feast is standing at the threshold of our heart and home. It's here. We can feel its warmth. At the same time, the texts remind us of the solemnity of the feast and ask if we're ready to accept it. The first stichira of Christmas Eve says, "Come, let us rejoice in the Lord. Let us tell of this present mystery." Come, let us rejoice in the Lord. Let us tell of this present mystery. Tone 2 Samachlas. In the anticipation which comes from celebrating these pre-feasts, we experience the full range of emotion and anticipation of future joy. These texts should feel to us like flashes of lightning, accompanied by thunderclaps, like divine truths, accompanied by reminders of our sinfulness. We can see a wonderful example of this at the small Vespers, which I guess, it's only really done in monasteries now, but it'd be great to see little Vespers, sung more often in churches. But on the small Vespers of all the great feasts, except for the Feast of the Ascension and Pentecost, the stichira are written to the tone tu podoben, O House of Ephrata. And if you ever heard the recordings from Kievo-Pecherska Lavra, their tone to Doma Yefrafovo, House of Ephrata, it's an awesome, awesome tone. Tone 2 is also widely used within the liturgy. The festal antiphons are often specified to be sung in tone 2. Only Begotten Son is often sung in tone 2. The hymns after communion are supposed to be sung in tone 2. We have seen the true light, we have received the heavenly spirit. So if you sing that, in your church, if you're responsible for the singing and you're singing it, we have seen the true light, we have received the heavenly spirit, we have found the true faith. That's so boring. Sing it to tone 2. It's a tone 2 stichira. Actually sing it to tone 2. It's a great way to infuse the liturgy with more of the tones. So get rid of the straight chant and replace it with tones. It's much better. The hymns after communion. So as I mentioned, at Christmas and Theophany, instead of the hymns after communion, we sing Vся Českaya, all creation. Also, tone 2 Bulgarian. Vся Českaya, all creation is filled with rejoicing today. Again, a lot of churches, they'll just sing it straight. All creation is filled with rejoicing today, for the Lord is born of the Virgin. That's so boring. Sing it to tone 2 Bulgarian, much better. So we can see tone 2 accompanies us as we enter the church for the first time as newly baptized. It's what we sing as an expression of thanksgiving after communion, and it will resonate as our loved ones kiss us for the last time just before we leave the church for the last time in our coffins. So that's tone 2. Again, if there's any questions about any of this, I know that it was a little quick and there's a lot more to say, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat at the side. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Reader Ilya, for this blitz transition and Exodus introduction to tone 2, which is extremely illuminating. And probably you'll have to watch this video several times to get all the different references that Reader Ilya made to all the different feast days and their stichiras or the different parts of the liturgy. But it's worth watching it and listening again. So thank you very much, Reader Ilya, for all those references. And as Reader Ilya said, that you can write him in the chat or write to him by email. If you don't have his email, write to the UGC, hello@ugccmusic.com, or maybe Reader Ilya will write his email in the chat, and we can then pass on any questions to him. And this, the slide on the screen is the first page of his 8-tone guide that's on the SingCon website. So you can get a glimpse of a lot of this text that he's referring to, whether it's the Dogmaticon or the Troparion or Stichiras, and the texts that he's referring to, a lot of them are on there. So let's move on now to tone 2 and how to sing the stichiras, the tone 2 samohlasny stichira. That's why we're here, to learn the stichira melodies, samohlasny. So Christine Riek has the floor, and I should add that she wanted on the website for everybody to know that her maiden name is Levitska, right? And that there were many cantors, Levitsky cantors. So a shout out or a sign of respect to those cantors that came before us. So Christine.
Great, thanks, Deacon Daniel. It's nice to be here with everyone together. May I please have the first slide, Daniel? Thank you. Today I'm going to start with a very brief introduction to solfege and key signatures, which Melita will talk about in more detail, I think, next week. When I sing, I want to know how to find do. During a liturgy, do is the priest's ending note. Whatever the pitch is, whether it's a C, an F, a G, a D, that note is do. This is the movable do system, as Deacon Daniel has referred to. Father Roman calls his fa, but we're still talking about the same system. And if you think you don't know solfege, I think you maybe do. Maybe the priest will sing something like, "Let us pray to the Lord, Lord is do," and our response could be, "Lord have mercy." We have sung re mi fa. And then the next time we might respond to "Let us pray to the Lord" with "Lord have mercy." We have started on so. Therefore, even if we think we don't know solfege or musical theory, we have it internalized. And solfege can help us draw out this internalized, embodied musical knowledge to help us sing. To share music, though, we have to write it down using musical notation, which must choose one pitch range, a starting do, and a corresponding key signature. And I look forward to Melita's talk on that. But for now, a quick look at what is in the Vespers book. 3 different key signatures. Even the 8 tones are not all written in the same key signature. Oh, back up for a second, please, Deacon Daniel. When I read music for the purpose of liturgical singing, I want to know where is do because of that movable do system. And I'm following the pitch set by the priest or the lead cantor, so everything I do is relative. I will mark do right on the sheet music, even on every line of music if I have to, because no matter how good my theoretical knowledge is of the circle of fifths, I don't have time to think about it while I'm singing in church. So the preamble is because we're going to look at the written music today, and I'm ready for the next slide. Thank you, Deacon Daniel. Let's quickly review tone 1. It had an A and a B pattern, a unique verse melody, an ending pattern also. Last week I talked about the transitions from the verses to the propers and back to the verses, and the importance of knowing your endings well. And recall we're using a unique text to memorize each of the tone patterns. Tone 1 went like this: do, re, mi, fa, so. Accept our evening prayer, O Holy Lord, and grant us forgiveness of sins. Back up to so, do, re, mi, fa, so, to the world. One note up to me. Lead my soul forth from prison, that I may give thanks to your name. If we can look at the next slide, I've written that out for you in musical notation and marked the patterns and the verse. I like to use the key of G major indicated by the 1 sharp or the thing that looks like a hashtag, because in this key, do is already clearly marked for me on every line of music. The treble clef is a stylized handwritten G called the G clef, and the center or the belly of the treble clef curls around the note G on the 2nd line from the bottom, which is do in the key of G major. Now let's learn tone 2. The next slide, please, Deacon Daniel. Here we can see tone 1 versus tone 2. Tone 2 is marked A, B, C, D, so 4 different melody lines plus an ending plus a unique verse melody. There are a lot of moving parts. This is the most that you'll encounter in Vespers. To be clear, the A and B of tone 1 are not the same as the A and B of tone 2. Each tone has unique melodies for all parts. Tone 2, like tone 1, happens to start on so, but not every tone does. And as I explained last week, we're going to learn each tone using a unique text taken from the propers for verse 10 of that tone. So here to sing this little box, we'll pick a do, re, mi, fa, so, A. Come, let us adore God the Word. B. Who was born of the Father before all ages. C. And was incarnate of the Virgin Mary. D. For of his own free will he suffered the cross. Find that so again. Do, re, mi, fa, so. to save me a sinful one. I've ended on me, and I start the verse on so, do, re, mi, fa, so. Lead my soul forth from prison, that I may give thanks to your name. I've ended on me again. So when I go to the next propers, I go up to so, do, re, mi, fa, so. If you work on learning your tones like this, eventually you'll be able to look at a cheat sheet, something like this, see the words only for the A pattern. Come, let us adore God, the word. Check your starting solfege and begin singing. On the website, there's a more detailed recording of this technique for each tone for you to review. On the next slide, thanks Deacon Daniel, I've written out that music for tone 2, again in the key of G major, but you use it with whatever do you're trying to pitch match to. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Come, let us adore God, the Word, who was born of the Father before all ages, and was incarnate of the Virgin Mary. For of his own free will he suffered the cross, do, re, mi, fa, sol, to save me a sinful one. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Lead my soul forth from prison, that I may give thanks to your name. That's tone 2. And on the next slide, we're going to look at how all of this appears in the Vespers book. This is page 48, where you first encounter tone 2. What have I done to make my book work for me? I've identified the key signature, F major, and I've marked do on the staff with a little dot beside the treble clef. I've analyzed and found the ABCD patterns and the ending. The book doesn't tell me those exist. I have to find them. I've highlighted the ABCD patterns in different colors and the ending. I've identified and marked the solfege that I need to keep me on track. The Vespers book does not explicitly tell you, but this is the pattern that you're going to use when you sing the propers on the subsequent pages. It's also used to sing Let My Prayer Rise on the bottom of this page. This has only 2 phrases plus an ending, so we sing the A and the B pattern and jump right to the ending. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Let my prayer rise like incense before you. The lifting up of my hands as an evening sacrifice. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Hear me, O Lord. My tip of the week. When you're learning, sound out that starting solfege for your ending line, because your ending might happen after a pattern A or a B or C or D. Sometimes it might start on your most recent ending note, at other times it won't. But if you get in the habit of sounding it out and learning it like this, you'll be prepared to end your text at any time, no matter where you are in the melodic pattern. And the next slide, please.
I think that's all I have.
Oh, maybe, it scrolled down.
Oh,
Okay.
this page. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Let's see. Maybe I can.
No, that's all right. I can describe what's on the next page, which was, oh, no, that's kind of an important page. How about if I screen share what I have?
Yeah.
Would
Let's
that
see
work?
if I can. Let's see if I can. Here. Why don't I do this? Sorry for this technical glitch.
No, that's what Zoom is all about.
Yeah. Okay. So it was the bottom of that.
Yes, it
Page?
was.
Let's see. Okay.
I could just screen share mine.
Does that work?
Yeah. Oh, that's still the same page, but I'll share my screen. Let's
If
see
you
what
can.
happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you've disabled participant screen sharing. So, okay. I'm going to describe what you see when you turn the page and you get the verse. Where's my verse? Huh. Can I hold it up to the camera? That would work. Yep. We're going to do it old school. If you want to stop screen sharing,
Okay,
and then I'm
yeah.
going to hold my book up there. Can everybody sort of see that? All right. The verse appears on 2 pages. This is the second half of the verse. So again, I have to do the same thing for the verse that I did for the main melody, find the key signature, find my do, mark my starting and ending solfege pitches. But then we're faced with this. This is the text for the propers that you're going to be singing according to that ABCD pattern. The way this text is printed, I can say it's an efficient use of space. However, I find it very difficult to sing a run-on sentence like this when I have to keep track of 4 melodic melody lines in the pattern. When a tone only has an A and a B pattern, I seem to be able to keep track of where I am. But, oh, there it is. But once I get beyond that, I start to go sideways and maybe lose my pattern, especially when I'm learning. So I need to do something to help me use this Vespers book. I underline the endings. I turn those asterisks or phrase endings into big slashes. I've tried writing A, B, C, D into the text, but there's not much room. Here I've color-coded it. Father Roman has developed his Galadzicons. You perhaps have your own solutions. In a more perfect world for me, I would prefer each phrase to be on its own line and for the 4 lines of an ABCD pattern to be grouped together in stanzas and the ending clearly set apart. Then I do much better in a complicated tone like this. When I copy text from Royal Doors for Theophany or Presanctified Gifts, for example, I do exactly that for myself. My Vespers book is very marked up and I have sticky tabs all over the place. I encourage you to use your own personal copy if you can and mark it up with a system that helps you navigate through it. And that's it for today from me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Christine. I think to start with the end, your comments about how you treat your book are a lesson for all of us. If you see a prayer book or a cantor's music book, whether Irmologion or Hlasopisnitz, and it's in mint condition, then it could be a bad sign for your spiritual life or your singing activities. No one's judging here. Maybe you know it all by heart, but just don't worry. Don't be afraid to beat up your book. Make it, use it to its fullest potential. And I think your comment about how to divide up text is also something that's very helpful to share our own experiences and for people who are responsible for books to hear what you have to say about making things more user-friendly, especially with this Ottawa Vespers book that you've been pointing out. It's quite widespread, but it definitely has a lot of room for improvement. So hopefully if there's future editions, that will be taken into consideration. One thing before I give the floor to Melita, I'll just say one thing that we heard in the last few weeks, that each cantor is often going to think of either breaking up text or emphasizing words in a text slightly differently. So some of us might put accents slightly differently on the text. So it's just very important that we prepare in advance, just like was mentioned a few weeks ago also about breathing. Know where the phrase ends so you have enough breath for that phrase. I don't know if Father Roman was thinking this while you were presenting, but some people like to start tone 2 sticheras kind of without the pickup, if you want to call it that, of that starting on so and actually start on the la. So something like, come, let us adore God, and then kind of do a little pickup there. But I think that really depends on everybody's local preferences. There's also sometimes a variant of the D phrase that is more common in Ukraine that sometimes can get people confused with tone 4. So I think it's good if we stick with this variant of the 4th phrase. And there, just before I asked Melita for her comments, there was a comment, I think, from Margaret that the example you gave for the 4 phrases in this slide was missing the text of the stichera. Yes, that's true, because you can see the full text here that A, B, C, D repeats, and A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D until you get to the end. So Christine did not forget the text, she just simplified it for anybody who was wondering if she was denying the submission of Christ to burial and his rising from the dead. No, she was not. She just wanted to make it simple for you. So I don't know if Melita, if you have any comments or suggestions for singing tone 2.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. This was great. And I really love the colors. I've actually never seen it color coded. So this is beautiful because the verses and the phrases really pop up. Rather than an A, B, C, D, it's actually very important to keep in mind that tone 2 consists of special beginning, 3 repeating verses, and special ending. So A, the yellow happens only once, and submitted is not yellow, and submitted should be orange and then pink. Does that make sense? So can you just go back to it actually?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I've heard it done both ways. So this is great for you to clarify. Thank you.
The come, let us adore God, the word happens only once. That's the introduction, because listen, let's continue singing. Who was born of the Father before all ages. So this is the phrase that goes down, right? And was incarnate of the Virgin Mary. For of his own free will he suffered the cross, which we will go, and submitted himself to burial. So that's orange, really. So it's it's special beginning and then 3 repeating verses. So if you label them A, B, C, D, which is totally fine, then when you go back to repeat, since you have more verses, you will be going back to B, not to A. A happens only at the very beginning. Very good. So in order to distinguish now between tone 1 and 2, right? Because both tend to kind of meander around soul, right? Having the text, as Christine pointed out, is very useful tool. So have some text, because that kind of sticks with you and you remember the words, and melody instantly pops up in your head, right? But in addition to that, it's important to just keep certain musical elements very, very clear. So one of the distinctive marks of tone 1 and 2 is the following. The tone 2 has kind of like a little inflection, just a little inflection, and then it keeps on running straight. So there are no holding notes at the beginning of the tone itself. So you'll have, be it for the verse or for the tone itself, you'll have the inflection. Here we have it a little bit later, as Deacon Daniel pointed out. It's really, looking at the text and seeing what do we want to emphasize. Personally, I would say, come, let us adore God, the word, as opposed to come, let us, because it even, when you think spiritually, it's almost as if we are kind of exalting ourselves. Let us, adore God. Anyway, really minute things, but you just hit that inflection and then continue running. Whereas tone 1 had the holding notes at the beginning, right? Just actually using the same words and singing tone 1, you would have gone, come, let us adore God, the word, etc. Right? So you have the long notes at the beginning of tone 1, but you wait with the half notes in tone 2 until the end of the phrase. Let text stress guide everything you chant, right? Because sometimes we have short verses, phrases, I should say, short phrases that we sing. When you have longer ones, quarter notes are simply a limitation of indicating our chant, right? So although they're written out so that we have syllables, right, to sing to, they shouldn't be syllabic per se, right? So we want text stress to guide our singing always. and that should also guide your inflections. So for tone 2, my layman's people, if you're not, solfege is fantastic and it's a very necessary tool. And as Christine pointed out, chances are you know it, even if you don't know it. But if you want some sort of a layperson's description so that you kind of visualize it and have it in your head, it's punch and run. Just punch and run. Come, let us adore God, the word punch, and then keep on talking until you find that cadence. That's essentially Mark's tone 2, especially for the verse. My kids drives me bananas. My eldest gets forgetful. She will do the inflection, but then at the end of the phrase, which for the verse simply stops, dead stop, nothing happens. So you have, let's say, the just shall gather around me, just stop there. She dips down. The just shall gather around me, she sings. And it's like, the little things. So that's it. Short and sweet.
Great, thanks, Melita. I'm not sure if there are any specific tone 2 questions or comments from everybody else out there. I don't know if there are some apologists for the different D, what we're calling D here, or the third repeating line, as Melita pointed out, the da 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 da. That could be dangerous. You could navigate into tone 4 if you go that way and you don't watch out. I don't know if anybody wants to defend that version of tone 2.
I'm not sure I want to defend it necessarily, but we did it in seminary, mostly because the cantor at the time was trained in Lviv, and we always dipped into tone 4. And I didn't remember that because I've been singing it this way, which Father Roman taught us. But I remember us falling into tone 4 on a regular basis, and we would always fall into tone 5 to tone 8 as well. That was always the other one.
We'll talk about that when tone 4 rolls around. How's that? Would there be, Father Deacon, if we can maybe have somebody just try out singing something a little bit?
Sure. Do you want to pick some victim
I can't
or
quite
volunteer?
see. I'm on my iPad, so I can't quite see.
Okay,
but
here.
if anybody's waving at you that they want to do it or not.
Any volunteers? Anybody want to try to sing? Which one did you want them to sing, Melita?
So that's another thing. Drill, drill, drill. And what do you drill? Switching. You drill switching. It's easy. Once you get into the tone, you know, okay, initially you're going counting on your fingers, which phrase am I in or on, and you know, eventually get into it. It's easy. Switching is hard. So I would like to try both. Actually, I'll try, you know, let's start one tone, sing a couple of phrases, and then switch to tone 2. If possible. If it's too much, perhaps we can, you know, just put that bug in people's ears and they can kind of psychologically prepare themselves and try it next time.
I don't see any hands raised. I don't see any vigorously nodding heads. I see some kind of hesitant, good Ukrainian Catholic faithful, wanting to sit in the back of the church in the last pew. I think they might need warning if you want volunteers / victims. So next week, get ready. Name that tone. We'll be quizzing you.
And we'll be quizzing 3.
Yeah.
1 and 2 for sure. We'll give you.
Wait till we get to tone 8, and you'll have to do all 8, like those memory games. All right. Let's then. Why don't we pass to as time is running out. Technically, we're already at 8:45 almost, but we're still going to stick with our special topic of today, which is how to intone the verses, kind of a general commentary overview. We're going to learn about each of the individual verses later on, specifically when we get to each of those tones. So we already know tone 1 and 2, how those verses work. So reader Ilya had some tips and advice for us. And just before he begins to share his wisdom with us, I have some slides, reader Ilya, that might be of use to you. I have these things from the Pop and Petrashevich Irmalahion with those funny verses, but maybe you can give an argument why it's not good to try to learn tones with some kind of comedic text like this. But you
Okay.
have the floor.
Hold on. Let me get rid of my ear things. Just a second. Okay, good. You can hear me?
That's right, yeah.
You put those things back on there?
Sure. I'll just give the slide before. It's from this book, Reshov Irmalahian, from 1970.
So I mean that's fine. I mean it's just to me I feel like all things that have to do with church have a certain sacredness to them. Hold on, let me find a better spot here. And it's always kind of sad when I see things profaned, and church music is like iconography and other things is there's something very holy about it, and it's kind of sad for me to see things like this that are, and because it's Ukrainian village kind of stuff, there's going to be stuff about drinking and beating your wife and things like that, which I don't think should really be sung to any tone. So that's fine. There's people that use these sorts of things as devices to remember the tones. My advice to you is always to use what the church is already. The church provides everything we need. We don't need to make up stuff. There's two ways of, personally myself, there was a time when I sang here at church in Toronto. I sang a lot of funerals, and I was singing about 3 funerals a week. And the way that I really solidified the tones was through the 8 Stichit of St. John of Damascus. And if in your church, if you're responsible for singing funerals, and your pastor actually does the order of funeral rather than the Requiem liturgy, you sing these stichita. And if you're in a parish that has a lot of old people, you're going to be singing these stichita, on a pretty regular basis. So I can remember all of the first lines of the stichita for the reposed, and that's how I remember, but especially tone 4. Tone 4, that was the one that I had a lot of trouble remembering. But if I think of the words, where are the affections of the world, where are the affections of the world, where are the vain dreams of delight, where is gold or silver, where are the multitude of servants and attendants, you memorize this stuff and you make it yours. I have other tricks for remembering other tones. None of them involve anything as crass as texts about drinking and wife beating. Yes. Okay. So that's my argument against these sorts of things. It's interesting to look at, but I wouldn't advocate for its perpetuation.
So the important question here also is to how to help learn the verses themselves, because those stichita that you point out are great because they're in the funeral. They go through a cycle. It's probably one of the few times in a church service where we have the 8 tones, one after the other in a row. Unfortunately, there are no verses in that. So here's a slide with possible suggestion in the aposticha, which, just in case that term is not familiar to you, in Ukrainian or Church Slavonic, it's sometimes called the stichiri na stichovni. So the stichira that come after Svititechi, tranquil light, the prokiemen, the readings, so after the entrance, and then after Spodobe Hospodar, or vouchsafe, O Lord, or make us worthy, and then these stichira. And they, on feast days, they have their own verse texts. So for example, Christmas will have its own psalms that keep on getting repeated on Christmas, and also in the post-feast, or Theophany will have its own psalm verse. So the problem is, if we try to learn, for example, tone 1 by learning Lead My Soul Forth from Prison, we might dip into tone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because we sing that same text to all of the 8 tones. So this is just a suggestion, although it's open to criticism, because reader Ilya, I was discussing this with him, and he pointed out, for example, this one for tone 3 that is used at the aposticha, the stichira na stichoni, at Christmas, from the womb before the day star I begot you, the Lord has sworn an oath and will not go back on his word, which is from Psalm 109, is also used as a prokimen or other points like the royal hours. So you might confuse the tone 3 verse, if you memorize that text, with a tone 4 prokimen, something like that. There are also other examples here, but if you look at this table, it's kind of a suggestion of sticking a psalm verse that's thematic, connected to a specific feast day or commemoration with a tone. So it's a suggestion. The floor is open if you yourself have other ways of learning these tones. Reader Ilya has a comment.
Yeah, so I have a very simple method that this is great, but again, it requires remembering a lot of text, which comes only after years of singing these services, right? So for a very basic way of remembering, even just the verses, and maybe I'll just do 3 for now, or 4. I can do 4 for now, so I don't want to take up too much time. But for tone 1, the way I remember tone 1, or the way I used to remember it when I had more trouble remembering tones, is for the verse, lead my soul forth from prison. And okay, so this only works if you do it the Brampton way. If you sing tone 1 verse the Brampton way, lead my soul forth from prison, it's a line directly up, which is 1, okay? Tone 1. Tone 2, lead my soul forth from prison. There's 2 notes there, ba ba ba. Tone 3, lead my soul forth from prison. You go up 3 notes, 1 bum bum, 1 2 3, right? Tone 4, 1 2 2 3 4. There's 4 notes, bum 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 bum. Okay, so that's the first 4 cheats for the verses of the tones, okay? Tone 1, directly up. Tone 2, bum bum bum. Tone 3, bum bum bum. And tone 4, bum 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 bum. There you go.
Okay. That's helpful.
That's something I thought of when I was a teenager.
Okay, that's pretty helpful. Anybody else have equal wisdom from their teenage years? Maybe for the other tones, or other comments, feedback, other stuff that works for you? Father Roman, you always like to reminisce about your youth. What was your way of learning the tone verses for the 8 tones?
Repetition, 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 I guess. You know, you just keep doing it so often. Although initially mnemonic devices are good. For example, for tone 5, it's not the verse, but I got tone 5, so it goes, first you sing up and then tone 5 goes up, then down. That's right. But whatever you use that does that. But with the verses, 2 things.
Wait, that's called tone 5 takes a dive.
Okay, see that?
Hear me. Tone 5 takes a dive. There's more. I've got a bunch of these, but I'm not going to take up the time.
You got to write them down. Write them down. Share the wealth.
But again, 1, repetition, and then you get fun. But 2, my wife, what she has, a little gyp sheet where the first verse is the first line is always there. Once you get after the first line, then you can see the pattern. But she has a little gyp sheet in the back of her Vespers book, and that enables her to do that.
Okay, that's helpful.
And I agree with all of the above. It's the little descriptors in your head. If you're musical, great, use music theory. If you're not, use little descriptors that'll help you. Like I said, sit and drag, or punch and run, kind of like Ilya going, up and down sort of a thing, or straight line up. If you do it the Ottawa way, you still have straight line up because you leap, but then you just descend. Why? Because you don't have that time to remember the text and quickly test it as you're switching between tones, right? Once one krelos, if you're lucky enough to have the 2, is done, you are on. You can't be, testing your words out. So you have a little quick cheat sheet in your head telling you, okay, I have tone 2, I've got to punch up a note and run straight. Once you started and you go, the Josh shall gather around me, you're set. The whole tone comes to you, right? So little descriptors, hang on to those, whatever works for you. I personally actually don't like using text for remembering anything, but rather tonally. So That's my 2 cents.
Good, that's helpful. Comments? Anyone else? So it seems everybody has their own little devices to remember how to, whether it's take a dive, punch and run, or other things. Maybe by the end of this Name That Tone series of sessions, we can collect all of them. Send in your little key phrases with the tones and we'll try to figure out, and we can actually even test them out if they're immediately recognizable by others. You know, tone 5 takes a dive, people can figure that one out, or punch and run or something like that. So send in your suggestions, we could gather them and put them together. Otherwise, the only solution will probably be to memorize the whole Psalter and then identify these individual festal refrains from the Aposticha. That's just a suggestion. I don't know, 2, I think, equal methods. All right, well, we're already at 8:55 here in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. So we've run out of time for this week, but as we always say, see you next week. And I think instead of a prayer at the end for all of us, we have a specific prayer today for our Sinkan chaplain, whose birthday it is today. I was informed in the chat. So it's my job as a deacon to intone Nohelita. And I don't know how many, we have 45 participants. There's probably 46 different melodies for Nohelita. But Father Roman will lead. Father Roman, you okay with leading the sing from Nohelita, and everybody can turn off their mics or join in for a cacophony of many years?
Sure. The
So
normal
I'll let
one.
Tony-
Okay.
To the servant of God, the priest Joseph, grant, O Lord, health, salvation, success in every endeavor, and preserve him for many years.
No hayalita lita, no hayalita. No hayalita lita, no hayalita. Vos Maria, vos Maria, no hayalita.
Great.
Thank you.
Hailita, Father Joseph.
Thank you very much.
Happy
It's nice to
birthday.
be with you on my birthday.
It's nice to hear a priest wanting to be with his cantors on his birthday. Good. Maybe next year we can sing at a service with you, God willing, or maybe even this year at the next SingCon. All right. So thank you.
Well, we
very
were
much,
going
everybody.
to celebrate together on my 5th anniversary, and then of course COVID hit.
Right. Yeah, your anniversary to presbyteral ordination is on the protection
Yeah.
of the Mother of God, October 1st. That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
So we, as we did last time, if you want to leave, you can. You're free to leave. We're already over time. If you want to hang around and discuss the intricacies of the tone 2 dogmat, there actually was a question about that. There's a question from Margaret Close. Feel free to pose questions either in the chat or unmute yourself and discuss. Tone 2, whatever cantor questions you have while people are still here.
Deacon Daniel.
Yes, Michael.
I actually have a question. So, a service that I have not been to, unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend a lot of is Matins. The tone 2 melody that we sang tonight, that's the same, you would use that in the Matins service on Sundays?
So the tones that we're learning in this Name That Tone session are called the samohlasni stichera melodies in the Galician system. So they're anything that's a stichera. So at Vespers, you'd sing them at "O Lord, I Cry to Hear Me." In the stichera there, whenever it says tone 2, you'd sing according to this melody at the Aposticha, the stichera that come after the entrance. And then you would also sing them at matins at the praises. That's the end of matins at the Great Doxology. That's on a Sunday matins, for example, or a festal matins. You can also have an aposticha at matins on a weekday, if it's a lower rank commemoration. But there are other tone melodies as well, the resurrectional tones. There's also, we're not going to get into this in these sessions, but there's special sessional sidalni melodies. There's variations, irmos melodies and things like that. But definitely you do sing the samohlasni at matins at the end.
So they overlap then.
It's the same melodies, different texts, and so they are used at matins. Yeah, you have to pay attention when it says tone 2. What does it mean, tone 2? You don't sing a prokimen to a tone 2 troparian melody or stichiran melody, for example. Father Roman has a comment.
Yeah, was that Michael that asked the question?
Yeah.
Michael, listen, Michael, this COVID, one of the benefits of this COVID thing is that live streaming. And we've been doing that faithfully now for several weeks. Each week, as you know, has a different tone. If you want to kind of review that tone 1, tone 2, we've just come out of what, tone 4? Ilya, what was the last week, tone 4? Yeah, and it's all the tone 5. So Vespers was tone 5, and you'll see how that works. Matins at tone 5. And if you were to sit down and have the text in front of you, you'll be a very good, not only refresher to pray the Vespers and Matins with us at this time of the year, but also to review those tones because they come one after the other like that. So I would recommend, if you have not, check out the St. Elias live streaming on Sunday morning or Saturday night for Vespers and Sunday morning for Matins. The tones are quite repeated there.
Good, thank you, Father Roman. Any other questions or comments? Seems like a shy bunch of cantors. That's unusual. Something's up. People, it must be everybody's in Lent. It's, what is it, second week of Lent for a bunch of you. You're probably trying to, third week of Lent already. Oh no, wow, okay, so.
It really flies by.
Yeah. You're all tired from all your frustrations.
I heard you were busy this weekend. You were in a retreat with the bishop, I saw. Bishop Bohdan?
Yes, that's correct. I see that Andriy Hornetkevich is holding up this Octoikos Guide for Galician Chant from, is it the Holy Unmercenaries website of Father Sloan or Siluan Rolando?
Yes.
Do you want to say something about that?
Unmercenary.
Yes.
Excellent source.
Does everybody know that resource? There's a link on the SYNCON website. Dr. Hornetkevich, how did you come across that?
There. I don't remember whether I came across it, whether somebody had posted it to me or whatever, or whether I stumbled across it, unlikely. But it's very easy. It's www.unmercenary.com and then /index.html. But unmercenary is the key word. Remember that. And not only does he give the stichere that we have just been examining, the chant note, but also gives, for instance, the Bolharsky, the special troparia or kontakia that may occur. He does not give the Bohorodicen, the Theotokio, the Dogmaticon. He does not give that because there's a specific melody for each text. So simply look it up in your Etymologion and good luck.
It's funny. I listened recently to an interview with this Sloan Rolando fellow, and he talks specifically about how there are these melodies for the Dochmats, but he doesn't suggest that you sing them because they take too long. And at that point, I stopped listening to him because his credibility went out the window for me at that point, at least his, his outlook on things. But yes, no, I've looked at his resources. There's lots there. It's definitely, it's interesting to look at. I would be careful about using it in church though. That's all I have to say.
A comment about the dogmat and other similar chants. I feel myself, and I'm not up to singing those, to make it clear in the first place. But with a lot of these chants, I'm really at a loss. I'm tugged in the two different directions. The text ultimately is the fundamental thing. The melody is supposed to make the text more eloquent, if you will. Now, I sense that at some points, the melody seems to take over and drowns out the text. That the text, and this is, I think, where Siloman, or whatever his, Silouan, okay. Silouan, I think, has a certain point there, that when you, I've known Jacquet, who will valiantly go through this dogmaticon and sing every note, and I can't understand the text.
Mm-hmm.
That's
whether I give up with English, and even in Ukrainian, which is my native language, I find it very hard to follow the text in that melody. And not only, and the dogmaticon, I think, is perhaps the extreme example, but very often even these stichera, as we sing them, part of the Octoichon and so on, that sometimes the melody, as it were, eats up the text, and that you cannot meditate on the text, which is ultimately supposed to be the message. Okay.
Can I say something
This
to that?
is a very good, Doctor, sorry, I'll just pause here. Dr. Hodniatkevich, you are always stimulating the very interesting conversations at the end of the Name That Tone. We should hire you to be the late show, to have your own post Name That Tone show about the difficult questions. I don't want to take us off topic. Ilya, respond, please.
Okay, so I absolutely agree with you that especially if sung poorly, don't even bother. Don't even attempt it if you can't do it justice. Okay, so I 100% agree with you there. But where I would try and add something is that, sure, the text can sometimes be obscured by the melodies, and that is why these melodies are used very infrequently, I think, for one. Secondly, these melodies are used on the 8-week cycle. So you hear, if you're going to church regularly, you're hearing this once every 8 weeks. I can tell you from going to church since I was a little kid, and we sing those dogmats faithfully every week. By the time I was 30, I memorized, I'd say, probably 95% of the dogmats. Now I'm pretty confident that I could probably sing them all off by heart now. But if I had sung them to Samothlas melodies, I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just saying that this is how these things work. They work on us over a long period of time, and that's why we have liturgical cycles, because hearing something once, you're never going to get it. You need to hear these things over and over and over again, and and it's only because of the melodies that I was able to memorize the words, because those words, yes, they are top level theology. This isn't your basic flowery texts or anything. This is really, that's why they're called Theotokion dogmaticons, because this is fundamental. So I completely agree with you, and that's why I think the level of singing in our parishes has to be raised to the point where singers can sing this stuff at a level of competency where the words are actually, where the melody is supplementing the words and not the other way around. The melody and the way that this is talked about with the Irmologion, I would say, is even more applicable to all of that flowery Baroque stuff. That can you know, we all love Bunyansky, great, but it can also be over the top, and I'd say that that is more about the music. Whereas Duhmats, this is very, very well thought out over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And my criticism of Father Rolando was not so much that my criticism of him is that he doesn't want to sing them because he's putting time constraints on a service. So I agree with you. If you can't sing these properly, by all means, sing them to the regular Samochlas melody. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that at all. Sing them to the normal Samochlas, but it's something to work on. And especially for younger cantors, this is something that you can definitely achieve, especially with the recordings and the resources that are out there now, notes that you can actually read instead of scribbles. You know, it's possible, and it's possible to, I can tell you, it's possible to memorize these great pieces of both musical hymnography, dogmatic theology hymnography, and also some really ancient chants that have been basically very not changed. They haven't changed very much from the early 1700 printings of the Ir Molohion. It's recognizable through every printing. So if you do it, you know, there's the added satisfaction that you're part of, you know, this continuation of a very ancient tradition, very ancient musical tradition. I would never want to go to a service where everything was sung like that. I think that that's what makes our services so great, is that there is the variety and the fact that those sorts of things are only used at critical points like that.
Thank you very much, Ilya. And just before we continue the discussion, I put a slide here on the screen of Father Ivan Muzichka critiquing church singing and critiquing this practice of singing everything kind of on a recitative. So that could also apply to choosing stichera samohlasni melodies over a dohmat, or as Ilya was referring to earlier, about choosing that just recited melody for example, we have seen the true light, we have received the Heavenly Spirit, instead of a tone to a sticheron melody. And as Father Muzichka writing in 1960, saying that recitative makes the liturgical services musically monotonous. But also Father Blessed Omelan Kovch had a lot to say actually about the Ir Molohion in his book, Why Ours Are Fleeing From Us, if I could translate it, the title that way. Chumu nashi vid nas tikayut. And he has, I'm not sure if any of you have ever read his book, or have know of the passage I'm referring to, where he talks about the Ir Molohion, and he paints this picture saying, oh, when we think of the word Ir Molohion, we think of some kind of dreary, dank church with some old babas singing and somebody's asleep in the corner with drooling, and everything's dirty and not been cleaned for decades. But no, this is a pearl that is covered, that has to be rediscovered. This is our tradition, our heritage. So if you haven't read that before, look it up. I'll try to find either an English translation of that passage or the full text, if it's available. Father Roman had a comment.
Yeah, very, very briefly, I agree with Professor Horniakevich. The words take precedence, the music supports it. And the words, if you read the sentence, you will find that there are certain words that jump out, and those are the words that jump up in the music line or are held on the music line, so that the words take precedence and the music supports it, hopefully as well as you can. Secondly, if you can't do it well, I don't sing the podobens here. They are being sung now, much to my consternation, because nevertheless, they're being sung now, so they're being reintroduced. But I've always, wherever we had podobens, I've always sung it to samohlasni. Or maybe we have to go to the next step. And third, Professor, check out our site, Vespers. The dohmats are an absolute joy. when you get to the Dogmat, if you could live stream, access our live stream, Večernja, and for the last, we've got last 8 easily are available on it. The O Lady, the shadow of the law passed away with the realization of grace. When it can be done, but it takes years and years, as Ilya will tell you, but it can be done, and you can hear it if you check out our Večernja here at St. Elias on Saturday night.
Father Roman.
Yes.
Father Roman, okay.
Margaret,
For
yes.
for those who, if you're just beginning to start Vespers in your parish, okay, I mean, you don't want to recite the Dogmaticon. Okay, it just makes me cringe thinking about it.
That's right.
Okay, but it's like, obviously you don't want to ruin it by singing it badly. So for those who if you're just starting to introduce Vespers in your parish, how would you make it, for lack of a better term, user-friendly for the congregation to learn? It's like, this is the tone 2, like it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's very fast. But it's like, when you get to the Dogmaticon, it's kind of like you're going, 80 miles an hour down the highway, and all of a sudden you see a stop sign.
Go sing it simultaneously until you're able to learn the other one.
Okay. Thank you, Father Roman.
Ihor Koval had a comment, unless Dr. Hornyutkevich wants to respond to that.
I have a comment here. The Dogmaticon presents less of a problem between the Church Slavic text, which we find in the 1904 Irmologion or Dolnetsky, and the Ukrainian text, because the Ukrainian text has been made to fit the Slavonic fairly accurately. I completely agree with what has been said about the raised note or lower or the uniform, to emphasize this or that particular text. But, and this is a problem that I personally do not have because my parish is strictly Ukrainophone. But if you try to do this in English, how do you do that? Question.
We have done it. Tune in, live stream to Elias Večernja any Saturday night.
There's actually recordings on the SYNCON website, Father Roman's recordings and notes. So you can, actually, that could be a thing to check out and try to compare. Ilya has a comment.
I would argue that our English renditions from the Irmologion, especially the stuff that my father has put together, is actually more intelligible in English and more relevant to the musically than in the Irmologion, even in the original Slavonic. Sometimes the Slavonic does funny little things, and I'm not sure if that's meant to be that way or if the typesetters missed the space under the right square, so the way that we sing them, the way that my father wrote them out, he wrote them out in English in his Irmologion, which I still have, and they work beautifully. They work beautifully. Number 8 is always the tough one, but the others, they absolutely do the words justice, and I'd say that's why it's so memorizable. Memorizable, is that a word? Okay.
I want to say something about that. I've always had a hard time reading music, but every Saturday night I'm doing it at my parish, and I've been trying to read the music. And I don't know why, maybe I'm busy. I'm forgetting to go through it before the service. And I figure it's a safe space. There's only a few people there. I can read the music. If I make a mistake, no one's going to know the difference. As I'm reading the music, I can see the logic. It's one of the easiest things I've done. Sight reading the Dogmatica that are in the Sheptitsky book. I'm not sure if it's the same as they do at St. Elias, but whatever's in there, I'm sight reading. And it's the easiest sight reading job I've ever done. And it makes perfect sense, at least for me. And I'm not that good sight reading. Sorry.
Thank you, Father Joseph. Ihor Koval, is your question about the Dogmats?
No, it's more general about the stihira, when they changed more to Ilya and then to his father. When the stihira changes, you know, we start in 2, and then the couple of verses later it's in 5, and then maybe 4, and then finish it. Why is that? Is that basically to convey something, the word, what the words say, i.e. compassion or strength or whatever? Or was it taken from the Greeks, you know, where the Greeks had this, so in 4, so we do this in 4, and this one in 2, or what? So do you have any answer to that? Why all these changes? I mean, it's nice to have the changes, but it's difficult for a cantor, you know, starting out or not very conversant with these changes to do this, you know, in time.
By way of jest, may I join? By way of jest, that is a cantor's trick to keep him in charge. I'm kidding.
Well, Father Roman, I have a question for you. In your booklet, I mean, it's very good with all the squigglies, but what is the, say in tone 2, number 13, you've got a 3-line stave. I can basically figure out, you've got a squiggly thing on the bottom stave, which I guess is a tonic kind of. And then, but you have on the 5 stave, you have a squiggly kind on the middle line. What is that?
It was probably a slip of the pen.
No, because it's all over the book. I like it going up and down. That's good. But what is that thing at the beginning? It's like a key signature.
At the beginning, it shows you I have a little dot where that would be do or fa. And then based on that, you go upward, you start the phrase up or higher or lower, but that is fa, okay, or do, okay?
Now, what about if
also, sometimes I'll have that note there for, not here, but I'll have that for the E son. Anyway, okay, good. Ihor.
Okay, what about if we've been talking basically in the major key? What about if it's the minor key? What do you do then?
Same. It's all in the. So if you look at the, can you hear me?
Yes.
If you look at the Irmologion, it's that same system. The five lines with a key signature always in the middle line, which is your fa or do, right? When it's in minor, it's just it's just taken to the right thing. So mi re pa 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 da 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 da. It's still in the same thing, right? So.
Okay. And what about the different tones in the stihira? Where do they come from? Who said this one should be in 4 and the next one should be in 5, and then you go back?
I think that probably Deacon Daniel could probably answer this question a lot better. But I know that well, our tradition comes from the Greeks, and for them the tone system is. It actually is a tone system. So it's tone 1 through 4, and then again 1 through 4 plagal, and tone 1 is related to tone 5, tone 2 is related to tone 6, tone 3 is related to tone 7, tone 4 is related to tone 8, like modally, right? So and also the Greeks were really big into poetry, so, and poetic form. So if you sing enough stihira, you'll start to realize that there is poetic form. Even if it's really poorly translated into English, you can still detect, and that's why liturgical translation is so important, because if you're unaware of the form, then you're missing out on something. So there's a poetic form that our stihira are composed to, and those can sometimes be reflected in the very melodies. So earlier on, I was talking about the Podobin Dome Yefrafov, O House of Ephrathah. That all of the stihira are always really short. They're only like 5 lines long. It's always really, really short stihira because you only sing each melodic phrase once, so you never get any like repetitions. So that in itself is a poetic form. It's these really short little stanzas that are sung to a podobin that is specifically composed for that arrangement of lines. Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so the tone attributions were devised because of the meter of the texts. And then you'll also see sometimes that even though our translations generally are not very good to reflect that, there are certain phrases that will get repeated. Like a tone 1 troparion at the end will have glory to this, glory to that, glory to you, oh, whatever, to the resurrection or to various saints that come. That's kind of a pattern of text that's repeated at the end. Yeah, Ilya mentioned podobens have a specific pattern, like Dom Efrafov has 5. Other ones have to have, like Preslavno Chudese has to have 8. Dalius Znamenie has to have 9. So there's kind of like a textual structure. The text is the thing that's the most important in being transmitted, and so the melodies have to match up with that. Because for us, it's just a series of melodies and not of modes and meters. We lose that. For English, though, if you are familiar with the English translations of Brookline, which is just around the corner from you, of the Holy Transfiguration Monastery, the Greek monastery there, they actually do make an attempt to transmit a meter into English as well, which is why it's so frustrating to try to sing those from those books when you're singing Galician chant, because it's just seems kind of odd, because that's not a factor for us. Medita had something to say.
Yeah, just a quick addition. So your question was, why do we change it? And I think both Deacon Daniel and Reader Ilya explained very beautifully how certain hymnographers wrote in certain tones. So certain saints, like if they composed hymnography for a particular saint, will carry that tone. But I think what you're asking is, why do we switch all the time? So you have 10 stichera. Why do we start in one tone, then we switch, then we switch? Because of how the stichera are placed. So first you'll do the octoi, meaning you will reflect the week. So if it's Great Vespers on a Saturday night, first you sing for the resurrection, for the Sunday. So you might have 6 stichera or less of that. So let's say it's tone 6, but then you commemorate a certain saint, so you will switch to hymnography of that saint. And if it was written in tone 1, then we sing tone 1. If you're in Lent and you have Lenten, verses or what have you, then there is this particular order of how you what the division of these stichera are, how you plug them in, so to speak. So you start with a Sunday and then you plug certain things in. So depending what you're putting in, that's where you have switches. Actually, sometimes you don't have a switch at all, rarely, but it does happen. Or you might have 2 tones to work with. Other days you bam, bam, essentially all 8 are sung in one service. So I hope that makes things a little clearer. It's not because we like torturing people.
No. Although sometimes it's the hymnographers that are creative that want to make some kind of allusions to, like Ilya said, tone 2 has certain characteristics that remind us of certain things. And so if you're writing hymns for a new saint, you might want to bring that out. There, for Saint Procopius, not the one that was now, but the commemoration, I think in the summer, it's the text for him follows sequence of one stichera is like in tone 4, then tone 5 and tone 6 in a row. So it's not jumping from different texts. And Procopius means progress on a journey. So maybe the hymnographers wanted to play a trick on the people or make a joke by making people progress along the tones going up. So if you're you can have fun with this stuff too sometimes if you get too far into it.
Father
Roman? Sorry, can I just before we continue, I just to point out the stichera, the Naslavnik for Dormition is sung in all 8 tones. So that's one stichera text where you have to be changing. And if you notice, the change is 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7, 4, 8, and back to 1. And so there's what we sing that in Samoclass melodies, which is really, man, if you really want to challenge yourself, do that. And we've only started doing that in the last 2 years in Brampton. So it's something definitely to work up to. And you have to have one person that is thinking like 3 lines ahead all the time. But I just wanted to say that these guys, they were geniuses. These guys were absolute geniuses. If you look at the there's all kinds of hidden treasures going on in our hymnography. One of the most obvious ones is the fact that our canons, a lot of them are written with acrostics. They don't translate into English, but in Greek, if you read Greek, the first letter of each tropar of a canon, if you read the entire thing, you could read a secret message in it. So I know the one for Saint Elias is, the acrostic is, "I will dance when I hear the wonders of Elias." So fun, they've hidden fun little things in there, and like a lot of it goes over our heads because we don't speak Greek, but it can still be found. It's really cool.
Father Roman?
Margaret, yeah.
Okay, Father Roman, okay, I'm looking at, okay, it's, from what I can see, this is a B flat that the staccato are sung to. So if I'm reading this right, it looks like the tone 2 dogmaticon that starts on the do is on the B. Is that correct?
Ilya, will you bring up tone 2 dogmaticon? You just had it on. The B flat is your do.
Okay, the B flat is the do. Okay,
For me.
that's what okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Or fall, okay. By the way, I'd love if you got it. Dancha, could you bring that up again?
Yeah, 1 second.
I'd like to, I know that this might be pushing, but I want to show off something here.
Sorry, let me, here, what I'll do is,
It's page 53 in the book.
1 second. I'll share
The
my
Great Vespers
screen
book.
here.
By the way,
Ilya mentioned.
there's clean notes of all of the dogmats on the SingCon website. The notes that are in the Ottawa book are reprints of my father's handwritten notes, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit difficult to read. If you go to the UGC, if you go to the SingCon website, there are both in square notes and in regular notation, the dogmats all nice and cleaned up. But if you want to use the what you're using right now, that's fine too. That's
Okay.
what we use.
1 second. So you're on the SingCon website. Let's see here. At the top, it's not loading for some reason.
By the way, that was a joy. It was nice having Joe roll there.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some technical glitches. Oh, there you go. Okay, resources. Then you scroll down to music resources, scores, and audio. And then if you go down to Theotokia Dogmatica, here, you can get them from the Lviv Irmalahian. You could get Ukrainian translations and adaptations from Andriy Protopsalt, Andriy Shkrabyuk. These English ones here are from Father Roman's adaptations. The text is from Archbishop Braya's Byzantine Daily Worship. So here you have the notes here. It's in a different key than what you have there. It's the key that Christine was explaining. So G here. So can you see that?
Do, re, overton. I just wanted Slavonic because I show that, but it's all there for you. And is there an audio as well?
Yes, right here. So let's see. Can you hear this? No, wait.
But that's a third, that would be a third lower, wouldn't it?
Not a third lower, no, because do is on G.
Right, but the do is on G, and the one that it starts up here in the Great Vespers book, that's a B flat, so that's at least a third, correct?
Well,
You're
if
going
it's a
to
B
G
flat,
and B. From G to B is a third.
I know, but it's a different key. So in this key with the one sharp, do is on G. With the other one, with the flat, whatever, do is on the B flat for me. If that makes sense to you. So
Right.
do just moves. But what is important to know is that the notes are there. Do, re, O Virgin, the shadow of the law passed away with fa, real. There, it's a do is on G, and it goes from there. If it's got the square notes, do is on your B flat or a fa. Do is on B flat. Danchik, don't. It's tedious.
Okay, so basically do moves up a third in the Vespers book.
Yes, if it's indicated not as sharp, but the flats definitely, yes, it's on B flat.
It's on a B flat. Okay.
Yeah. Now purists will hate me for that, but that's the way I explain it. I am what it's called a samouk. I don't know why I do it. I just do it. As I said, my father used to lean his head over, put his hand over his ear, and say "Famire, famire," and it worked. See.
Mm-hmm.
So here, for example, dohmat. You see the square notes?
Okay, wait. I have to zoom in here. Yes, that's on a B.
That's right. So do is on the middle line of that staff. B.
Right, that's a B.
Do, re. It starts on re or sol. I would prefer sol, but do, re. Da, pa, 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 da, 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 pa, pa. And then you go on from there. But just what I do, Professor Hornikevich, when I did this with the Etymologion, I did look at the notes and listen to the words. O Virgin, the shadow of the law passed away with the realization of grace. Father Shul, Mr. Shul, you must thank me for this. I don't have enough breath. Grace, for as the bush had burned without. You've got to have good breath. But you see how it works, and it works very nicely. Anyway, you have the materials, and I believe Danchik has the audio somewhere. So, but at the same time, before you can run, you have to walk.
Second tone.
And so sing it samohlasny until you know what you're doing.
Endeavor, for ages of ages, amen. O Virgin, the shadow of the law passed away with a
Daniel.
realization of grace.
You get the idea. You have it available to you. But again, if you throw it at people too soon, they can't handle it. Make sure you know it and you can sing it smoothly. And what I've done in the past, they would sing the Eton. I would sing it by myself. But now, I got a half a dozen people singing it with me. They learn it with repetition.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get up to that point. It's taken 45 years here in this parish.
Thank you, Father Roman.
Thank you. Thank you for
That's right. So there was a question also about this singing the Dohmat with an Eson and people humming the Eson and one person singing the melody. Somebody have something to say on that?
When I brought up the Eson last week, it was not so much with the Dohmat, but with the Zadostojnik, the Irmos, during the Divine Liturgy. That's where I've heard it and where it made a very good impression on me, how well it worked. I would not be bold enough to suggest that the Eson should be applied to the Dogmaticon or other things like that. It just, in this particular instance, it seemed to have worked for me. And that's a very subjective thing. But then again, I guess, forgive me, I'm a Kantian.
I like it because it gives the people something to do while you got that solo. If it's a solo.
I say in Boston, we did Narikach Vavilonskich with Eson, and it worked very well. People said, "Oh, we've never heard of that," but we don't do matins or vespers. We tried, but people wouldn't come. You know, and it was like banging your head against the wall, and the priest was not very enthusiastic about it as well. But I did it during communion on the Sunday, and it worked very well.
You have to have a collection And you have to have a sermon, otherwise it's not real. And communion, of course.
I actually have a quick question about dogmats and harmonization. What's more proper? Because the less they're used, obviously, the older tradition they retain, the less they are corrupted, so to speak. So what's more appropriate, to sing it with an ison, to sing it in unison, or even blow it up in, well, our beloved Western harmony, 2, 3, 4 part harmony? Is it okay to harmonize it?
Can I answer that?
Please.
Okay, so my personal preference, and it's only a personal preference, I don't like using ison too much. I know that it can make a nice impression, and certainly there's a place for it at certain times. But when it comes to the dochmats, if you ever find recordings of the dochmats from the Kievo-Pecherska Lavra, okay, they are almost identical to ours, almost identical. Yeah, see? And they're in 4-part harmony, and they sound awesome. They sound so cool. And especially if you actually get recordings of the monks of the Lavra singing it, because they have their own style of singing. It is something else, man. So it's hard, and it's harmonized a third above, right? What's given as the chant, which is very common in cave and chant. But it also goes to show that the connection, these dochmats, the melodies of the dochmats, connect us not only to our Galician past, but to a much broader past as well. These melodies are even in the Znameny melodies from Russia. There's a lot of similarities in the dochmats to what we sing, to our Lviv Irmologia.
What time period are these harmonizations from, more or less?
I don't know.
They started getting written down in the 1800s because this Kiev-Pecherska Lavra was in the Russian Empire at the time, and there was a decree from St. Petersburg saying every monastery has to write down their local chants. And so they were already printing melody books, books that preserve the melody lines, and they would sing them in harmony, but they only started writing them down in the 1800s. And one of the first guys actually to do that was like a retired army general or something, Malashkin. And then there were certain monks that were entrusted with writing down the music in harmony, or to write it down the way they sang it. And some liked the way they sang it more than others. So there's certain gaps in how they transcribed it because the guys entrusted with it didn't want to do it. There are some recordings of the monks singing this in the early 1900s. And a lot of the melodies are, like Ilya said, are very similar to Galician chant, and sometimes even kind of this folksy style of singing that sounds a lot more familiar to our kind of Galician congregational singing style. So the books, for example, the notes here at the bottom are from the early 1900s, and they've been reprinted. And it's interesting to think that we could talk more about this when we have our session about harmonizing and how to harmonize the tones. But there, in Galicia, there was the practice at the Staropihia of singing the Irmologion in 3-part harmony, in sometimes even 5-part or 8-part harmony, because at the Staropihia they had a boys' choir as well, and so they would double up the kind of the soprano, alto, descant kind of voices, and then have men doing that. So there's a book by Porfiry Bajansky where he describes all this, the way that it was harmonized, but in Galicia it was never written down, or it was rarely written down. There are examples of the dogmate written down in 3-part or 4-part harmony from the seminary in Rome. St. Josephat Seminary has copies of the dogmate written down in harmony. But from what I've seen, I could be wrong. I'd be thrilled to see more examples of harmonized chants coming from Galicia before World War II or before World War I. But It's kind
Yeah,
of
that's neat. ESON doesn't work for us, our little community, because even if the girls do start the ESON, a few ladies will latch on, and then little by little, since you have to hold it for a while, right? Their pitch will start rising, and by the end we have like a beehive sort of a sound. It's just horrible. So no ESON for us until we learn.
What is an ESON?
It's a sustained pitch that you provide like a base upon over top of which there's the melody that happens.
Drone. It's a
Drone.
Ukrainian bagpipe.
What was that again, Father Roman?
It reminds you of the Ukrainian bagpipe. It's like in the hills of Hutushtina there. And it has a good primal sound to it. I like it.
Well, if you look at the Kievan score, look at the bass line, you see that the bass, at least in this particular fragment, sings only 2 notes, which is a drone. Oh, excuse me, somebody's calling.
Yes, but this is a misleading example of the bass part of Kiev-Peczerska Lavra chant, because Peczerska Lavra, here, let me find something.
Also, just as an aside, it's the musical tradition of the Kiev-Peczerska Lavra is very much still alive. Like this codified music, if you were to go there and listen to them sing, the way that they sing it now is they sing all of this stuff, but they add spontaneous descants. They do all kinds of, they play with the speed and tempo. It's like kids playing in a playground. The two choirs of monks on either side, sometimes up to like 30 guys on each side, 40 guys on each side. You can. I remember that the directors almost like looking over each other's shoulders, or not looking over each other's shoulders, looking back and forth at each other as if they're like trying to one up each other, they play, it's so playful and it's so like kozacka. It is so, if you have to stand through a 5 or 6 hour long service, this is the kind of music you want to listen to for 5 or 6 hours. Like it gives you so much energy. Yeah, it's so much fun.
With regard to this chant tradition, this slide is actually from a presentation that was done at a conference of UNESCO World Heritage, the musical heritage that UNESCO attempts to preserve. If you noticed a few years ago, Byzantine chant was declared an intangible UNESCO World Heritage treasure, something like that. And it's interesting that the Lviv Staropihia, so it's the building, the Church of the Dormition in downtown Lviv, is part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Peczerska Lavra is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And so there was this comparison of how these two chant traditions fared when they were suppressed by the Soviets and then revived in modern day Ukraine. And so definitely, as Ilya pointed out, at the Caves Lavra, there was an attempt to kind of restore what was there before exactly, and they had the resources to do it because they had the people and witnesses and testimonies of how it was done before the monastery was closed by the Soviets. Unfortunately, with the Lviv Staropihia, that tradition, the Galician chant tradition, hasn't really been revived there. So it's kind of, as they say in Ukraine, Mayemo Tesho Mayemo, or in New Jersey dialect, it is what it is. Anyway, we're already on almost 2 hours of talking about a lot more than Tone 2. So you can keep on doing that, but I think Father Roman, he's giving it's time to go to sleep. Father Joseph Matlack sent a YouTube link to everybody, so you can watch that. You can see a lecture there. Yeah. So on that note, see you all next week for Tone 3. And check back to the SYNCON website, ugccmusic.com/NTT, name that tone, for all the recordings and resources. So have a good night. Glory to Jesus Christ. Slava Isusu Christu.
Slava навіки.
Slava
All
навіки.
right. Thank you very much to everybody, all the speakers and all the discussion and questions. So bye-bye for now.